Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my July reading wrap-up. I should say that until now this year, July has been the best reading month for me because not only did I read so many books in July, but most of the books that I read were like awesome in multiple aspects. I have totally 18 books to talk about, and of these 10 are physical books, 3 are audiobooks and the rest 5 are ebooks. So without any further ado, let's get into the book's title. As usual, starting with the physical books, the first physical book which I finished in July is The Song of Achilles by Madelline Miller. I was totally astounded by how good this book was. I really did have some decent expectations when I went into the book, but all my expectations were surpassed by the writing of the author as well as the characters that she has written in the most raw form possible. Her writing is very beautiful. At the same time, it's not very flowery and makes us bored in any way at all. It is a very slow moving book, but at no point did I feel bored at all while I was reading it. I also have a video in which I'll be featuring this one, and I'll be talking about multiple romance books which I've been reading for the past few days in that video. It will be coming out pretty soon. My thoughts on this book will be detailed in the video, so that I'm going to try and keep it as much short as I can here. So we follow this love story of Patroclus and Achilles and how it ends in a tragedy towards the end. I am basically a person who does not have any knowledge about Greek mythology at all, but when I read the story, it just kept me hooked and captivated throughout the time I was reading it, and I can say that there is not even a page or instant during the entire book where I felt bored or felt like keeping the book down at all. I had to take forced breaks in between reading the book because I had other work also to do. In that way, it was just really awesome, so I rated it 5 stars completely. The next physical book which I finished is a translated work from Tamil, and it is One Part Women by Perumal Murugan, translated to English by Anirudhan Vasudevan. This is the first book inside a trilogy. I have actually started reading the second book, but I should say that this book was really good in each and every way possible. Here we follow a couple, Kalki and Ponna, during some time before our independence period. In order to just give you an image of around the time during which this book takes place, I'll just tell you something from the book so that you can easily relate to that time period. Now this story is narrated during a time when women who wear saris did not used to wear jackets, so it is set in that kind of a time period. And the main plot of the book is that Kalki and Ponna have been married for over 10 years now, but they don't have a child at all. And during that time, being childless can bring a lot of social problems for you, and in that way they are taunted continuously during their marital life. But both of them do not give up on each other during their marital life. At the same time, one does not blame the other for not having a child. The character work in this one was really awesome, and the writing was in the rawest form possible. I think it will be better in Tamil though. It is definitely a super serious book, but you can read it very fast. I rated this one 4.25 stars. The next book which I finished is Booklovers by Emily Henry, which is one of my anticipated releases for this year, and it is an adult contemporary romance. I can say that I have really high expectations for this one, and it satisfied most of them really well. It is not as good as Beach Read yet for me, but I did enjoy the whole time I was reading this book because I think this was more emotional compared to both Book Lovers as well as People We Meet on Vacation. Both of those books have some kind of character exploration that is done in the past of the characters, but here I can say that almost 75% of the book focuses on the characters in the past and how they've been shaped into the people they are right now in their adulthood. So here we follow our two main characters, Nora and Charlie, who are both in the publishing industry, and Nora is a very well-known agent who tries to bring up really good stories and publish them so that the authors who deserve all the recognition get it properly. She's also really good in her job. During one such encounter, she meets Charlie, who's kind of in a superior position than her inside the industry, and they did not start off at a good place. And after a few days, what happens is Nora's sister Libby offers her to take her on a vacation and spend a month away from work. Nora agrees to it and goes along with her, and there also she keeps on meeting Charlie and many things happen. Most of this book focuses on the relationship between Nora and her sister Libby, and I should say that the author has done a really good job of showing that sibling relationship to us. I am a person who usually loves reading about sibling relationships, and I should say that this was really well done in that aspect. As a whole, it was a very satisfying book, and I rated it 4.75. The next physical book which I finished is the first book inside a Tamil historical fantasy series, and it is the book 1 in the Ponniyin SELVAN series by Kalki. I already have a summary video for this one in both Tamil as well as English out in the channel. I'll link it down in the description and up in the iCard so that you can check it out if you are interested. There is no easy way to describe the plot of Ponniyin SELVAN because it is very huge and epic in its scope, and it is also heavily political. The first book is basically just a setup to show us who are all the main characters inside the series and what are the places that we are going to visit and what is the main motive that is going on inside the series. We obviously have two different sides of characters and all the amalgamations that are happening between them. This is not also my first time reading Ponniyin Selvan book, and the main reason why I am reading this now is because of the movie that is going to be released in September. I am planning to read the entire series and publish videos for each and every one of the 5 books. I finished the second book also. The summary for that one will be coming up really soon. I cannot say that there is anything that is a fault with this book at all in any aspect. Especially reading it in Tamil, it was far more enjoyable for me. So I rated it 5 stars. The next physical book is The Hound of the Baskerville by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which is the next book inside the Sherlock Holmes series. I've read the first 4 books inside the series and I have reviews for all of them already out in the channel. I have not made a review for this one yet, but it will be coming out pretty soon. This is the third full-length novel inside the series after the 2 short story collections which come before this one. And I should say that of all the 3 novels that I've read so far inside the series, this is the most well written. And I also think this is the most famous of all the Sherlock Holmes stories out there because it is thought out and written in the most perfect way possible. I did not feel any fault or any kind of misfit inside the entire story at all. It is really difficult to properly plot and frame a mystery like this one, and I think the author has done it in the most excellent way possible. Also, if you're going to try and read The Hound of the Baskerville, try to read it sometime during the colder season because I'm sure you'll be enjoy it more then, because it also has kind of a supernatural element that does not lighten the mystery plot in any way at all, because the author does not allow the supernatural element to come and mitigate the effect of the mystery in any way. And this is the only book so far in which I've seen Watson dealing with the case more than Sherlock does, and that was a really nice new facet to explore the mystery from. I can easily say that this is the best Sherlock Holmes story that I've read so far, and I rated it 4.75 stars. The next physical book is the only non-fiction book that I read as a physical book in July, and it is Factfulness by Hans Rosling with Ola Rosling and Anna Rosling, who are his son and daughter-in-law respectively. This book is basically about all the facts that we've got wrong because of the media and all other sources that we consume because of the internet nowadays. All of us have this basic view that the world is deteriorating and all the things that we are going towards are only negative, but the author clearly shows us through data how better the world is becoming and what kind of better lives each and every one of us is living in developing countries and countries that were not developed during the end of World War II and such times. While reading this book, I'm sure that each and every person will be able to relate to some aspect of the book in some way or the other, because this is a book about people and Earth as a whole and how we have developed over a period of centuries. I was a bit intimidated to read this book because it has been sitting on my shelf for nearly 2 years now, and the main reason why I was intimidated is because it has a lot of visualization of data in various different forms. And once I started reading the book, I was able to understand each and every representation very easily, because the authors make it a point to show us the data as much simply as possible so that each and everyone who reads the book can easily understand what's going on in there and what is the motive behind showing us all these data. The author also passed away before the book was edited and published, but I can say that this is definitely a legacy for him. So if you've not read Factfulness before, just go forward and read it. I'm sure you'll not be disappointed at all. And this is definitely my most favorite read from July, and I easily rated it 5 stars. The next physical book which I finished is probably the biggest of all the books that I've read in July, and it is The Host by Stephenie Meyer. And this was a complete surprise for me because I did not have that great expectations for this one, because I know that many people hate Twilight and many more people love it as well. And I was not interested in reading Twilight before I finished this one. But at this point, I should say that if any one of you who's watching this video has read this one as well as Twilight, just tell me if Twilight is as good as this one. If it is as good as this one, I'll just go forward and try reading it, because after finishing this one, I definitely want to give Twilight a chance. Here we follow a main character, Melanie, who's in this kind of world where the entire Earth's population has been taken over by this alien species called the souls, and each and every soul is kind of a worm, and these souls take the human bodies as hosts, and almost each and every human being on Earth has been taken over by the aliens and they have been transformed into the aliens. It is made in such a way that the worm is set into the human's body and it takes over the consciousness of the human being and has its own life alone. Our main character Wanderer, who's also another soul, is one such alien, and she takes the body of our main character Melanie here. When Melanie tries to find some of her loved ones, how the thoughts of Wanderer as well as Melanie come together and the various complications in it are properly explored by the author in this one. I don't think there is anything wrong with this book at all, because I enjoyed it throughout. It takes a little bit of time to read because we have to spend so much time with the characters in order to understand what's going on inside this book, but I think it is worth it, so I rated it 4.75 stars. Next one which I finished is the first book inside a fantasy series, and it is The Folk, the Witch and the Worm, Tales from Allegatia, Volume 1, Aragon by Christopher Paolini. This is the first book in another series that is set inside the world of the Inheritance Cycle Quartet itself, and I finished reading the Inheritance Cycle Quartet in March. It is a very slow moving series, but I should say that I liked it very much because of the dragon lore and the amount of detail that the author has given to each and everything that he has written over there. It is definitely a really well laid out world, and it is also heavily inspired from the Lord of the Rings. Now this book takes place after the ending of the last book inside the Inheritance Cycle Quartet, which is Inheritance, and the main characters whom we follow there are being followed here also. I'm not going to tell you whom are the characters we are following here because it might spoil the other series for you, but there is one significant improvement in this first book compared to the Inheritance Cycle Quartet as a whole, and that thing is the writing of the author. It has improved a lot. Okay, in that series I should say that it is extremely descriptive and slow, but here he has brought it down a notch really well. That was bugging me throughout that series, but it does not happen here. He makes it a bit more crisp than that one here. I did have a good time reading this one, and it was also a very quick read for me, so I rated this one 4 stars. The next one is the second book inside the Ponniyin Selvan series by Kalki again. I read the second book 1 week after I finished reading the first book, and I should say that these books take a little bit of time to read, but they are very fast paced and you'll not be able to put them down at all. There are also English translations for the series available on Kindle Unlimited. You can just go forward and try them. But this story is definitely something which is worth being read by millions and millions of people out there. I think that after I finish reading the series, it might also become my most favorite series of all time. Let's just wait and see. From the first book, there is a great improvement in this one because we follow a solid plot and there are multiple things that happen here, okay? The first and second books are almost same in their length, but the amount of things that happen in the second book are 2 to 3 times more than the things that happen in the first book. It is definitely not a book that sets up things at all, and we also focus on the main character Ponniyin Selvan here more compared to all the other characters. The book also does not happen in one location alone. It happens in Sri Lanka as well as India, so that provides a really good variety. I'm very eager to continue on with the series, and I definitely rated it 5 stars. The last physical book which I finished is James and the Giant Peach by Rowell. Since I was reading a lot of books continuously and fast also, I needed a break and wanted to cool things down because I did not want to end up in a reading slump again. So I just went forward and picked up this very short book by the author, and I was sure that I was going to enjoy it because I have enjoyed each and every one of the Rowell books that I've read so far. Here we follow our main character James, whose parents have died, and he is under the care of his aunt, who are very cruel to him and do not treat him well at all. One day what happens is this person comes out of nowhere and gives him some seeds and tells him to put them in water and drink it, but accidentally he spills the seeds down, and because of this some insects become huge in size, and there is also this one peach which grows so enormously and becomes very huge. And how the insects as well as James come together and start living inside the peach and all the adventures that they go through is the plot of the book. It is perfect for children and adults also, if you ask me, because the author goes on and explains each and every illogical thing with logic, and I rated it 4 stars. Moving on to the audiobooks, I listened to a total of 3 audiobooks, and of these the first one is a non-fiction audiobook, and it is The Lost Art of Doing Nothing by Marje Willams and Lona Alders. This book is very similar in concept when it comes to dealing with the rest, and the 2 books which I felt it very similar to are the book of Hygge and Ikigai, and both of these books are based on 2 different countries which are Japan and Denmark specifically. And in this book we follow the point of view of the Dutch and how doing nothing can make our life far better at times. This book basically focuses on the fact that we should take some time out of our day each and every day and rest and do nothing at all. Even thinking is a kind of work, so in order to learn this art of doing nothing, we should not do anything at all, and it is completely free. That's the best thing about this book, if you ask me. The author does not say that doing nothing is simple, because doing nothing is one of the most difficult things to do for anyone out there, and how we can just slip into that state of doing nothing has been explained really well by the author in this one. It is definitely not a book that you can put into practice very easily, because just like doing anything, doing nothing also takes so much practice, and since we also don't know what we are heading towards, it's a bit more difficult to do. But once we start doing it and make it a practice, it will definitely open a lot of creative doors in our mind. I like the core concept of this book and the way in which the authors came forward and addressed them properly, so I rated this one 4 stars. The next audiobook which I finished is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. It is a translated work from Japanese, and it is also magical realism in its genre, where we follow events that happen inside a coffee shop. And the special thing about this coffee shop is that people who visit the coffee shop can time travel. They can go to the past as well as the future, but most people prefer to go to the past than the future, because knowing the future can bring good things as well as bad things to them, so they don't want to make that happen and go for the past alone. And the special thing about going to the past is that anything that they do in the past will not change the present in any way at all. There is only one solid condition when it comes to traveling in time inside the cafe, and that main rule is that a cup of coffee will be poured for them, and they must go to the past and get back to the present before the coffee gets cold. There are also multiple other rules which go with this cafe, and each and every one of them are explained properly in the first story itself, and it is also a collection of 4 stories that happen inside the cafe. I loved each and every one of the 4 stories, and the only problem that I felt with this book was that it could have been longer. There could have been much more stories, and all of them could have been related even more. That's the only reason, so I rated this one 4.25 stars. The last audiobook which I finished is a psychological thriller, and it is The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. And the main reason why I wanted to read this book is because I enjoyed the other book by this author which I read before, which is Playing Nice. And in this book we follow 2 different characters who rent the same house a few years apart. And the thing about these 2 characters is that the first character who rents the house dies there, and there is some kind of connection with the owner of the house with that murder, but no one knows how to interlink it and unsolve all the mysteries that are happening in there. I cannot say a lot more about this book because I think it will be better for you if you to just go in blind. I went in like that, and I should say that I had a really good time with this. I also ended up finishing the book in just a single day itself. It is definitely not as good as Playing Nice, but it is a really good nail-biting thriller. I liked reading the book, but I think the ending could have been done better, so I rated this 3.5 stars. Finally, moving on to the ebooks. The first ebook which I finished is a short story, and it is also the first book that I read in July. It is If the Fates Allow by Rainbow Rowell, which is a short story that is available only on Kindle. Here we follow our main character Reagan, and the story happens during the pandemic time. Reagan visits her grandfather during the Christmas in 2020, and since he's a very old man and he's living alone, Reagan isolates herself for the past 2 weeks and then goes and meets him. During the time that she meets her grandfather, she also gets to meet his neighbor, who's this young man, and he has also come back to his house because he wants to be with his parents and help them during the pandemic time. There is this very soft and subtle romance that blooms between Reagan and this guy during the Christmas of 2020, but after that they don't meet each other at all until the Christmas of 2021, during the time which the things have settled down a bit and there is not that much need for caution as it was in 2020. It is a very short and sweet story. To get you out of a reading slump, this will help really well. I rated it 4 stars. And the last 4 ebooks in this video are the volumes 4 to 7 of One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. I read 4 volumes of One Piece at last continuously in the beginning of July, but after that I did not continue on with the series because of various reasons. But I should say that I had a really great time while I was reading all the 4 volumes, especially volume 7. I rated the volumes 4, 5 and 6 each 4 stars, and volume 7 5 stars because it was excellent. So yeah, these 4 volumes of One Piece are the last ebooks which I read in July. So yes guys, those are all the 18 books which I read in July, and it was an amazing reading month for me. I hope that August will also be a really good reading month just like July was. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.